Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Nidhi and this is my UK diary. So in my last video, I talked briefly about how I came into this country, how I made a career for myself and eventually settled. This is part 2 of that video where I'll talk about things a bit more in detail. So keep watching. To talk about things from the very start, we're going to have to go back in time. So early 2000s is when I am in India. I'm working as a foreign education consultant, and I was guiding students who were interested in going abroad, be it UK, US, Canada, Australia, going abroad for their higher education. And this involved helping them from university selection, course selection, all the way through to visa guidance, helping them prepare for the visa interview. There was a lot of demand even back then for students who were more interested in coming to the UK than actually going anywhere else. And the fact that the UK master's degree is 1 year compared to 2 years in pretty much all the other countries was always a big attraction, especially for master's students. So that is pretty much what I was doing in back into early 2000s. And I was very, very interested in what I saw and talking to students. That was, helping them achieve their goals of being able to study abroad. That was something that really interested me. The first time I actually came to the UK was as a visitor when I was working for somebody else, obviously, and I came and saw the universities here and met various people from universities. So it was all very, very fascinating for me, to the point where I decided to set up on my own. So again, in around 2002, I set up on my own and I was counseling students, particularly to come to UK. And I was helping them throughout the entire process. So I'm very familiar with the requirements of universities here, but also the requirements in terms of visa interview questions and all that stuff. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I just thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could actually go to UK myself to experience things firsthand, to see a bit better what, get a bit more knowledge about what the country is about, what the culture is like, etc. Now, coming here as a student was not really an option for me because the plan was never actually to come here and spend a lot of time. I always thought I'd come here for a bit and then, get to know the country a bit more so I can give better advice to students when I go back. And then I would be going back. So therefore, I never really thought about coming here as a student. So I looked around for what options were available at the time. And at the time, there was something called a working holiday maker visa scheme that does not exist anymore. But the working holiday maker visa scheme was actually one that allowed somebody to get a visa for a couple of years, and they could work for 1 full year, and then basically they had to holiday for the other year, or in other words, spend all the money they had earned for that year. So that was a scheme that I thought is more relevant for me because I'm only going to be here for a few months, so that's fine. So I applied for it. I got interviewed and I cleared the interview, and I ended up basically being in the UK in 2004. So again, at this point, all I'm wanting to do is just be here for a couple of months and then go back and carry on with my business. However, when you come to this country, the first thing you do is try and look for a job because, as you're probably aware, it's not a cheap country to live in, to sustain yourself in. So that's exactly what I wanted to do. Now, when I originally came here, I lived with a couple of students in a student accommodation, in a privately rented student accommodation. These were the students that I had actually helped coming into the country. So that was pretty much the only help I have ever got when I came into the UK. And I asked them when I came here as to where I could register for some part-time work, some temporary contracts, because that's all you would get initially when you come to the country. So they told me all the different places I could go and register myself. So that's exactly what I did. The very next day I went and registered myself. After about a week, I ended up getting my first job, which was a clerical job. It wasn't anything exciting, wasn't anything fancy. It just gave me the national minimum wage at the time, but it was a good start because now I didn't have to spend the money that I brought over with me, my savings. I could actually start earning straight away. So that's what I did. I took up the job. Within a few months, I realized I'm going to need a bit more money because the plan was if I could save a bit of money, then that's actually superb. So I looked at some weekend work as well. So I still remember my first weekend job was in Domino's. So I was doing my 9 to 5 in this other place, and then I was looking for a weekend option. So I was doing a couple of hours in Domino's, and that was literally doing everything from answering the phone to making pizzas to cleaning the dishes, you name it. But it was all good fun because you get to learn a lot of things very quickly. And I continued doing that for about 2, 3 months. And then I thought I need to look at something different. By this point, I'd also actually moved away from the original place where I came to, which was Wales, Cardiff. That's where I landed first. So at this point, I'm now moving away from there and I am in a new town. And I just thought, how do I, in between, I've had a couple of, the part-time jobs and stuff as well. But then I eventually moved into a different town and I just thought I need to find work here now. So at this point, I'm again starting from the very scratch. Did the usual, which is I went and handed my CV and registered with various, part-time work or temporary work agencies. But I'm also looking for something more. At this stage, the plan still was I'm going to go back to India. So at this point, I'm still not thinking I want to stay in this country. However, I'm looking for something better in terms of job. So I went into the town and I literally took a copy of various copies of my CV and I spoke to various people, went into various retail shops and stuff. And I said, do you have any jobs? The ones that said, yes, we do. I spoke to them and I handed over my CV to them until I got to a point where I then I went into Phones for You at the time existed. So I went in there and I said to them, do you have a job? And I still remember they said, we haven't, but do you want to hand over your CV? So I did, had a quick chat with them, handed my CV, and I went back home. The very next day, I got a call to say, we might actually have a part-time position. Are you interested? Of course, I was interested. So I went in for an interview and I got selected for a sales consultant role. And so that is what I would class as my first proper job. When I got my first sales consultant role, it was way out of my comfort zone because I wasn't from that environment. Phones for You, they don't exist anymore, but when they did, they used to sell mobile phone contracts to people and also landline contracts to people. It was something I had never done before. It was a very sales-focused job, but it was also where you had to constantly talk to people. Something that I had never done since I'd been in UK because I was very much like back office jobs up until this point. So it was challenging. And like I said, it was taking me out of my comfort zone. But for me, that is what excites me. If something is tough, I'm very keen to do it. I like to challenge myself. I like to push my boundaries. So I said, yes, absolutely. I'd love to do this role. And I started. So did that for just over a year. And at this point, my working holiday maker visa is running out. And I'm thinking, yeah, I actually quite like being here. So I wouldn't mind staying here for a bit longer. But it's not the same as a student visa. So now if you're on a student visa, you can apply for a post-study work visa. And that gives you a bit of breathing space, a bit of time to think about what you want to do next. You would not get that option in a working holiday maker visa. So after 2 years, you literally had to go back unless you could do something else. So again, I started looking at various options. Back in the day, they used to have a HSMP visa scheme, which was highly skilled migrant permit, kind of like the skilled worker scheme we have got now. So HSMP, you could convert your working holiday visa into a HSMP visa. However, for that you needed, it was a point-based visa, so you needed enough points to be able to qualify in the first place. Your points were based on literally everything from your age, your education, to your earning, and all of those had to stack up for you to be able to apply for this visa. Now, everything else was absolutely working for me except for my earnings. I wasn't earning near enough to be able to give me the points I needed to stay here. So I spoke to my employer at the time and I said to them, look, I'm sorry, but I'll be looking for other jobs, and I have already started looking for other jobs because otherwise my visa runs out and I'm going to have to go back. So they said, okay, that's fine. We totally understand. We'll also see if there's anything we can do for you because we obviously don't want to lose you, because at this point I'm performing really, really well, even at a national level. I'm winning some competitions for, sales performance and stuff like that. So they said, we don't want to lose you. So let's see what we can do. I still remember to this date, I had, it was the same day that Phones for You actually came back to me and said, we would like to offer you a promotion, and they offered me the money that I needed to be able to get my visa. And at the same time, I had applied for this other job in a big food retail company, and they also offered me the position of a branch manager with the salary that I needed. So it was a very good problem to have, because I now had 2 offer letters with the same money that I needed, with promotion that I wanted as well. So I thought about it and actually said thank you to Phones for You, but I wanted to, at this point, I decided I wanted to stay here. So for me, having a clear strategy for how I wanted my career to evolve from this point was very, very important. And as a part of that, I just thought this other company would provide me better opportunities in terms of progression and growth. So it wasn't just about what I was offered at the time. For me, it was more about the progression and the growth. And that's where you have to have a very clear strategy of what you want to do and how you want to achieve it. So I thanked Phones for You and I joined the other retailer. Again, I was there as a branch manager for a relatively short period of time, and then I was promoted to an area manager position. I was with this organization for about 5 years or so, and then I moved to somewhere else. Fast forward to this day when I'm actually now, like I mentioned in my previous video, I now work as an operations director. I have been doing that role for about 6 years. I work as an operations director and I manage the operations of a brand nationally. So I travel up and down the country. I also look after a distribution center. If you want to know more about my career, by the way, I'm going to put my LinkedIn profile in the comments down below. So feel free to click on it and you would find out a bit more about my career journey. But basically, yes, that's how things evolved for me. On the visa side, so like I said, I went from working holiday visa to HSMP scheme. I now qualified for it after I was given my new job. The HSMP scheme is actually for 3 years. So by the time you are almost coming to the end of HSMP, you've been in the country for 5 years and the routes qualify for PR, permanent residence. So at the end of this period, I applied for permanent residence. After permanent residence, once you get it, you have to wait 12 months to be able to apply for citizenship. I will have to double check whether that still applies, but it did back in the day. So after waiting for about 12 months, I then applied for my citizenship, and I then got my British citizenship somewhere around 2008, 2009. And yes, and that's pretty much how my journey has been in the country so far. There have been a lot of things that have been really positive. There have been a lot of things in hindsight I think I could have done a lot better. So in my next video, I'm going to be sharing with you things that from my personal experience, I think I think everybody needs to consider when they're coming into the country, whether you're coming as a student or whether you're coming as a skilled worker. Things that if you really think about and if you plan and if you strategize would actually be a massive help when you're coming into the country. So I would be covering all of that in my next video. So look out for that. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Until my next video, take care. Bye-bye.